This is our Unconstitutional Awakening program.
Liftoff will start in T-minus 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have ignition.
Brought to you by KD Consulting Redesigned.
Ahoy there, mateys. It's time to set sail on another episode of Unconstitutional Awakening, the podcast. Avast as I'm your host, Jim Bob Oval Shorts, and tonight we've got another fantabulous guest from down under, out in there in Australia, my buddy from Missing the Point podcast. I've seen him bouncing around out there on Instagram and the rest of the podcast family that I see and hang out with and love so much over there. And reached out to him and see if he'd want to join us. I always love hearing the perspective from another end of the planet. So it's always good with this stuff. And maybe he'll see if he can reinforce that idea that our good friend and partner in Liberty there, Terry from Defeat the Media, see if he's got some of them same interesting theories that Terry has enlightened me to about things like us being on the upside down and not him. And who knows? We'll see where the conversation goes. This is going to be just a general conversation episode. We're going to catch up with this guy and educate you a little bit about him and on his podcast, because I know he's keeping up with the reality of the world and things going on in places like Australia and even here in the States, man. He's got a pretty good following, so if you guys already don't follow him, make sure you hop on over there and follow him. And you know the best place to find everything to hop on places and follow everybody is at unconstitutionalawakening.com. The home for everything Jim Bob Oval Shorts and the rest of his Freedom Pirate crew. You know, I love everybody that we work with over here. The hosts that you see and the people even in the background that help me do things like the Facebook and stuff, which they're people that we've all kind of been niched together since even before the podcast started and whatnot. So I appreciate their assistance and stuff. And you guys can get back to links to find everything to deal with them either in the host section or down there at our social links, places like Captain Conspiracy and the Freedom Pirates over there on Facebook.com. So, but you guys can find episodes and links back to all of the guests that we have here and all of their stuff and even the things we conversate about in each episode in the podcast and more section under Unconstitutional Awakening, the podcast. You can catch up on episodes of the Makes You Think on the Red Pill Project that I'm also on Saturday nights live. There's links to that in there. There's stuff there in there by our host Kel, Bandit, Caitlin, even Louise has got some stuff going on, and I believe Neptune's even got a rant section going on. Ox is working on getting himself a food section, so you guys look forward to that because we want to share some food stuff in there. And of course, you guys know when you get to the homepage of unconstitutionalawakening.com, you can find all the fantabulous things like the links to get back where you can watch us on Rumble, Odyssey, and BitChute. Some episodes do end up on YouTube, but we're trying to avoid the censorship there. That's all there is going on with that. There's also links to get back to listen on all of your favorite podcast apps, as well as check episodes out right there on the website if you guys just want to hang out on the website and listen to it. There's links to get you some sweet Unconstitutional Awakening merch with hats and shirts and flags and all kinds of good stuff, you guys. Go check it out, man. Get yourself something cool. You can also do us a favor and our friends in Liberty a favor and check out the stuff they got going on over there with Kirk Elliott at Peachy Key Creations, Ammo Can Survival, and Brett Pike with Homeschools Connected. These are all great people trying to move our move humanity forward in a way alternative from the main system that we're used to, and they're doing a really good job at it, you guys. That's kind of stuff we're looking for, and we're going to keep on promoting stuff like that. Like my new buddy Jason Christoph, like we've had him on the show in the past, but he's working on some stuff with his programs and documentaries he's got coming out, and I'm giving him a one up with this too. So you make sure you check out the link on this episode to get back over there with Jason Christoph and his stuff. We appreciate each and every one of you so much, and we can't thank you enough for all of the stuff we got going on. We've hit 10,000 listens, 10,000 views on all apps visually, and we've even got a couple episodes that are hitting in the 10,000 mark. So we do appreciate you guys, and each and every one of you, and all the feedback we're getting and stuff from you guys. That's what keeps us going and keeps us going on. So. Well, I know if you made it through this long, you're planning on staying for the entire show. So I say let's just jump into things and get this show on the road. So how is everyone doing this afternoon in my neck of the woods? I know it's early in the morning over there for you, Drew.
Yeah, just got up, had my coffee, and I'm ready to go.
Well, I do appreciate you getting up so early and making time to join us, man. It's very appreciative to all of us when somebody from outside of the country decides to make some special time for us. So, right on with that, man. And I found you from hanging out with a bunch of the other what I'm calling the podcast family now, like on Instagram, because there's so many different podcasts I'm connecting with up there, and I seen you hanging out in the comment sections and stuff like that. I was like, you know what? This has got to be another guy I get on, because he likes to have those conversations about the weird shit going on this planet.
I think Instagram's the only place to get to at the moment where you can be with like-minded people.
Oh, speaking of podcast family, it's like I changed my Instagram around not too long ago, and I put the podcast title in my bio, and every single day it seems like a podcast will get a hold of me and like, hey man, let's connect, let's hook up, let's swap ideas. It's like it'll be one podcast will get a hold of another small podcast, and they'll share thoughts, and it's great that way, man, because you really can't do that's not a thing on Facebook. And I just now recently found that is a huge thing on Instagram. All the podcasts, the smaller podcasts, will get together and share ideas.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, it's like the 100th monkey, isn't it?
Well, I mean, hey, but I think it's great because we're actually building a community up anyway, because all of us like-minded folks are able to have these great conversations with each other, and I think we're really making some progress towards things, because I hear more and more people talking about some of these great ideas and talking to some fantabulous people with these awesome ideas. And just before we hit the record button, Luis asked a really good question, and I asked him to ask the question again.
Yeah.
So Luis, let's just get back to that, man.
So we have lived through a strange time where science is kind of skewed. So you live in a place that lives a lot of extremes. So how's your view of global warming and the science around it?
Personally, I think global warming or global climate change is real, but it's not man-made induced. I come from the perspective that it's natural cycles that ebb and flow through time over a great distance and span of time. But there's definitely some fuckery going on with geoengineering, especially in Australia at the moment. We're living through a spring that's essentially an extended winter, and it doesn't look like we'll have a summer.
So it's like a climate shift. I think it's more like a climate shift than a climate change, because you're right. It does go in like every few thousands of years. North Pole, the magnetic North Pole is shifting right now.
Yeah, it's got that wobble. It definitely goes in ebbs and flows from what I'm looking at. And for the longest time, I would look at David Dubine and Ice Age Farmer and look at global cooling as being probably more of a direction that the world's going in, opposed to global warming. But yeah, climate change is definitely real, but whether it's induced by man, I think that's hotly contested still.
Well, that's why they use the word change.
Yeah,
you can't fight the word change, because when the Earth stopped warming, they were like, "God dang it, we can't say the Earth is warming anymore."
This goes back to
money at it. let's throw some people's tax money in it. It'll go away. It'll stop changing.
They've been trying to tell you that for a long time, but this always goes back to a book that I've referenced on here several times, and I've even done an entire episode about on the Red Pill Project called The Adam and Eve Story. That was a classified CIA book that talks about exactly this. Every few thousand years, there's literally a climate shift because of things like the poles and such shifting, like the one rushing, like you said, Bandit, the one rushing towards Russia right now, and such. And with the shift of that, logically speaking, of course, there's going to be shifts in where the climate's going. I'm a firm believer in these ancient maps that show Antarctica unfrozen. So they were unfrozen at a time because there was a shift, and that was a habitable area. That's probably why there is tons of things underneath the ice that we don't understand.
Well, to go into that, Jimbo, you look at what Scandinavia was when it was the Viking invasion of Europe and into Great Britain. People have this skewed historical view that it was an icy cold tundra and they had to go to raid to survive. It's simply not true. They were growing wine vineyards in Norway and Sweden, and you need a temperate climate zone to do that. So the coldness of the north is a relatively new thing. They were able to go out into the world because they were well stocked and provisioned to do so.
The little ice age that occurred a few hundred years ago that also coincides with the plague, the bubonic plague. So it's interesting that the bubonic plague happened around the same period that the little ice age happened, and also the crop yields died, and that's also the rise of absinthe because all the wine vineyards died. Because of the climate change was so drastic that there was no wine production, and then absinthe came into play, and then because it was somewhat hallucinogenic in relation to long-term use, it's the wormwood. People are like, oh, if you drink it once, I'm like, you have to drink it for multiple days. it develops in your system, and then you kind of start getting the effects of it. But that's why, like, there was that scourge against it, and like all these wars, and 30% of the population in Europe died. So a lot of things happen, and a lot of records get destroyed. So our notion of even time itself has some error corrections, like you're saying. Like there might have been some errors, and also the Vikings. I learned they're bigger and better in relation to size and health because they ate fish, and that fish had exactly the right nutrients to keep humans healthy and well. So Scandinavians have been around 6 feet for a very long time because they've been eating from the ocean very good food.
Exactly. And you look at inland cultures, like you look at the early Normans or the Anglo-Saxons, even though the Normans were descended from the same Danish Vikings, over a generation or two, they would drop below 4 feet. They were tiny because they were living on grains and leafy greens predominantly, and a little bit of meat. But
Vegans.
You look at the armor. You look at the armor suits in Scottish or English castles. They're tiny. Anyone standing next to them would be a giant.
Did you see that Poland blocked people from giving vegan diets to children because of studies have shown that parents that are giving vegan diets to children are smaller and potentially even have lower IQs?
Yeah, I can say that. I can say a lot of vegan people have low IQs.
You need that protein from meat.
Well, we have in sizes
and
canines for a reason.
Yeah, it's a lot of things. It's not only just the protein, because the proteins we can get synthetically, or like we can extract the whey and all that, but there's a lot of other things. Like even in shakes, you know that vegan shakes have lower values than regular. Like whey protein is like 130, and then like soy protein is like 70. And like there's scales and there's values. The best type I think is pea protein. That's like 80 something to 90, but still the values are garbage for soy and other types of proteins.
But see, the soy protein, you get a bonus of that. You grow some man boobies at the same time.
Yeah.
Well,
they have shown that there was the time at the beginning of or during the pandemic here, the whatever you want to call it, grocery stores had started to thin out on the shelves. And every grocery store photo they showed where the plant-based meat products and the fake vegan food, those areas of the shelves were still full, and everything else had been taken. So it just shows it's like people would rather starve than eat that stuff.
Yeah, we were paying $12 a head of lettuce at one point because of the food shortages, and people still weren't touching that shit.
Yeah.
I mean, what
Unreal.
the real, I would say, if there's any climate issue or global issue, I would say it's fishing. Because at least you have your friends in China overfishing everywhere. Is there fish issues or fish yield problems in Australia that you've even heard about?
Not that I noticed. We're in the southern end of Australia, so our fisheries are pretty well stocked. I go out fishing with my dad. He's got a boat, and we're not too far away from the coast, and we don't see any issues. But I can definitely see it at the top end near Indonesia and those South Sea, China Sea areas where it's just overfished to the max. There's definitely big issues up there.
That's pretty interesting. That just the span of the island, there's still such good fish, and I guess a lot of people worry about them migrating and such. But I guess you guys are doing fine down there. I bet it's beautiful out there fishing in some of that ocean. I could just imagine that would be. Sorry, that's me sitting here thinking about that. I just thought that was pretty awesome. I got to give you that.
Yeah, it's really good down here. Very good.
Yeah, because our buddy Terry, he lives up in the city side, he's up in the northern end of the country, and the poor guy, he's been drugged through it when it comes to a lot of the things up there. And you made mention earlier about not even being able to go to the beach during the whole nonsense and drones out there.
No, we as a country, we had a curfew system put in place that we didn't even have during wartime. So as soon as it hit, I think it was 9 o'clock at night from memory, you couldn't leave the house. And cops were patrolling streets, helicopters, on famous beaches around the state where people would go out and watch sunrises. They had drones with a speaker on there saying curfew is in effect, leave the beach, you cannot watch the sunrise, sunrises are illegal. A state premier would get up each morning and give his fear porn address of how many deaths there were and how selfish people are if they left the house after a certain time. Because COVID just knows to come out at the right time.
Yeah.
And
it won't come out at night.
How do you see now, obviously the policies were absolutely unnecessary, but how does everybody around you feel?
I think there's a lot of Stockholm syndrome. Looking back at the data now, and it's very evident, our state, out of any place in the world, locked down the hardest and had the most strictest measures, and we have the highest death count of COVID in the entire country. So it had no effect at all, no impact. And all it did was
the science showed it was never going to have an impact.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a reason why that was never a policy.
This is the fun part. Neither for masking or for the shots. The shots didn't prevent anything. The masking, unless you wore the mask how you're supposed to, and it's actually just for sick people, it wasn't going to do anything.
No,
because most people never wear it properly. So let's start off with that. Children, that was just damaging their brains. That was just plain stupid, and it was ignorance on an extreme that baffled. What were educators around your what were people saying around you?
Well, I am a government school teacher. Unfortunately, I'm in that system. I'm a rare white buffalo that I'm a traditional straight male who has to put up with all the left wing shit now. In our state, we had a really stupid system that just defied logic that I argued at every turn, where when masks were introduced, teachers didn't have to wear them when they were actively teaching. So I never wore one. I refused to wear one because I was always teaching. And only students from grade 3 upwards had to wear masks, but anyone below that age didn't have to. It's like COVID.
The only thing that just made sense. Wow, one thing.
It knew not to go near the little kids.
Grade, of course, they're going to be doing this and they're going to touch themselves.
But even kids above third grade,
yeah,
it's in their pocket all day. It's got microbes and bacteria on it.
They'll never wash them when they go home. They'll wear the same.
They get sicker. They statistically will get sicker. This will get them sick and give them very bad diseases.
So I lost a count 17 for that exact statement, Luis. I just want you to Facebook account number 17 was lost to that exact statement.
What?
Wearing this mask is just going to make you sicker.
Well, anecdotally, my observations are, and I keep an eye on the kids who did wear masks throughout it and occasionally still do wear masks, they are constantly getting sick still. They'll get the sniffles, they'll get cold. The ones that never wore a mask, that are rubbing their nose and touching themselves, they're fine.
Surprise.
Well, now if you notice, here in the States, the governors would do the individual governors of the states would get on Twitter and do their little COVID update. Make sure you get the shot, how many, cases we have.
Get all your masks, get your N95s.
Now they have gone back to saying, hey, this year the flu is on the rise. Make sure you go get your flu shot. I'm like, oh, wait, the flu returned? Wait, are we back to doing the flu? But
back.
We have school districts here that are completely shut down because so many kids are out with a combination of flu, strep, and RSV. Where I live, almost our entire school district is completely shut down for a few days leading up to Thanksgiving break because they said so many kids, a third of my daughter's middle school, which a third is a couple hundred students, are out with a mixture of flu/strep. It's ridiculous now. And it's not just like, I've noticed this is not like the regular whatever thing going around. This is something that's been brewing for a few years.
Yeah. Let me entertain a crazy idea for you guys. I haven't been sick the entire time. My wife has supposedly had COVID in air quotes. I didn't catch it. We slept in the same bed, all that kind of stuff. Never caught it. You
probably caught it asymptomatically, which is that is a real version. You can catch it and have no symptoms.
I'm in the mindset now where I'm entertaining the idea that it actually doesn't exist.
Well,
it's a crazy idea, but let me entertain you with this one. During the height of COVID, every school in my state was given a HEPA filter, every classroom. Now, we know modern day electronics, they're all Bluetooth enabled and have all these crazy connections, right? Every single one of these things has a Bluetooth connection and was set up in a classroom. It has a 5G signal. I'm not saying that 5G is COVID at all, but I find it really interesting that all these things were put in classrooms when kids started to get sick. An anecdotal analogy for me is every teacher who had that thing turned on all the fucking time got COVID. Mine just wasn't turned on each day and I'm fine.
You had it off?
This,
That's interesting.
That's
it's
amazing.
not my fault. The cleaners kept switching it off. I had no idea about it.
And this brings me back to another book that I definitely always recommend too, The Invisible Rainbow, The History of Electricity and Life. If you haven't read that, Drew, I highly recommend that because it talks about how throughout histories the different changes up into different frequencies of radio waves, even back to your early radio waves, caused different influenza type diseases in a lot of people, and how it has continued throughout time and stuff, through the steps up into your radio waves from back in the day to cell phones to the G speeds and stuff, the 2G, the 3G, because we're all old enough, I believe, that we've seen it go through that. I remember when you were a cell phone, what the hell? And then now you're cell phone and internet and computer and everything like that. And you were the lucky kid on the street to have the Super Nintendo. Forget having a damn computer in the house.
Right?
It is. So that's the thing. We are learning constantly that we have a complex system that encompasses what is the human being, right? We have limited comprehension of what truly radio waves could potentially do to us because we are beings of frequency. And I say that because I, at least even from my brother studying this subject,
we've discussed this too.
He studied at least with the effects of 4G, and he was just told me, never have your phone next to your head.
Yeah.
And you're making a call, use headsets. never do this. Don't do this. Just don't do that.
After starting to read the book,
and that's
that you just
4G,
mentioned.
5G, same thing. Don't put it next to your head. You put it on speakerphone and put it in front of you. Because when it's this close, it's bad. Prove it. The data proves it. It's bad. You can have it like this and it's fine.
Stop putting it next to your head, even for the demonstration. No. Yeah, well, I started reading that book you were talking about, Jim Bob, and I instantly went from having AirPods to putting them down and having a connected cable. I'm lucky that my phone is 7 years old and it still has the jack.
Yes. Okay. See, I have a phone that has a jack in it too, and even the headset that I have here for this and a couple other sets that I have are all cabled headsets. Like, I refuse to get into ones that have the Bluetooth wireless. Like,
You can put adapters on any of these devices.
to put it. I understand, but like putting it in my head and adding that extra radio wave of the Bluetooth transfer to my ears is really not much better than having the phone up there by your head.
No. I'll actually retort that. Yes, it is very different. The radiation that comes from this device when it's emitting a phone call, but not the Wi-Fi radiation, the cellular radiation. Like, I'm simplifying it. The radiation that is emitted from the cellular antenna is very different to the Bluetooth. It's not the same category.
But it's still a radio wave, and I still believe
there's bigger radio waves coming from the radio station across the street.
Correct. But again, I'm not disagreeing with that. But I'm also saying that I really recommend this book too, because I know Drew's going to understand what I'm saying here. But like, regardless of the radio wave, it's still a radio wave, and like you said, we are beings of frequency, and I added in a mech suit and all of these radio waves have some form of effect.
And you're right. You might be all right, and I might be completely fucking wrong.
I'm not trying to say that you're wrong. I'm just saying I'm not trying to say that you're wrong. I'm just saying, like, I think even though it's a different radio frequency, it's still one that's counteracting.
Fidelity-wise, anyway, generally wired headphones are superior. So
yes.
If we're going to go off audio, I have $100 headset, like, that's wired, the best headset I've ever had. And it's a wired headset, and it's by far better than any Bluetooth option available.
Does anybody remember the big boys? Like, from Bandit, you're old enough to remember it with me. I know you are. The one dude that had like they were like basically Bose headphone speakers back in the day before the rest of them. You couldn't hear for shit outside around you, but boy, did you have like a theater system in your friggin' head. Like, I don't think they make them that good anymore for that.
No, they make them better. It's just they're expensive.
They're very expensive. Like, I've priced some online because I wanted to replace the ones I've got right now, and it's asinine. It really is.
I can send you guys the highest quality wired headsets brand, one of the best in the world. It's actually made here in Brooklyn.
Those were the ones you told me about, and I went and priced them, and I don't feel like taking out another car loan or something.
I mean, if you look at the $900 ones, I get you.
Or the ones that are $36,000, or
Oh.
That's ridiculous.
600.
Drew, I'm gonna bounce back to you. What were you about to say about the book in the radio waves, I believe?
Yeah, what I was about to get to is that I think the jury, even if you're going off the science, air quotes, the jury is still out on what the effects of any kind of wave frequencies have on the human body over a long period of time, let alone having radio signals to begin with, then going into 3G, then 4G, and now 5G. We simply don't know yet. We don't have the long-term data.
Could I play a sound clip that is very relevant to this? Let me play this right now.
Science is not really about truth. It's about power.
Dun, dun, dun.
That's it.
That's the guy that wants to turn us into
power.
hackable robots.
That's about control and power. That's just how, like, think of it as the cathedral, the dogmatic like structures that rule society. Look at the past. That's easy. Just look at the past. How did the past behave? There was a merchant class, there was the aristocrats, there was the plebeians, and then there were the church and the science, which were kind of intertwined.
Let's tie back this dogmatic idea of how science is operating today. We'll go back to what climate change and everything that was going on in the start of our conversation. In Australia, we kicked off the whole man-made climate change, global warming agenda, all because the University of Queensland, they read in air quotes, over 5,000 papers. And under their conclusions, by reading those papers, they determined that man-made global warming was a real thing. The problem is there was one scientist and three little like secretaries, and all they did was read the title of each paper. And that's what the whole science is based on now.
I would love to see this baseline. Oh my God, this is so good. This is so good.
There was a video. There was a video that came out, and I do believe it was an Australian scientist that said the way they are doing college students now, the way science is functioning now, that it all has to be peer-reviewed. And peer-reviewed studies are garbage because everything significant to science since, well, the beginning has come from the fringe of science, has come from the people that were looked at as crazy. And now they have paid people to write as, you know, they're not those crazed people from the fringe, but just to get it peer reviewed. And everything peer reviewed can be bought and paid for.
Yes, science advances one death at a time, doesn't it? And you look at science. Science isn't magically void of politics or someone's own views about the world. If they see a title that suggests that, I don't know, let's say white heterosexual men have the greatest impact on global warming, someone who's probably left aligned is going to pick that up and read it and give it their peer-reviewed thumbs up.
Well, there's also the manipulation of the how you read it. So I think it's the Secretary of the medicine in Florida. I forgot the correct title. Sorry. He was the one that was refuting a lot of the data in the United States and was advising the state, hey, don't follow the policies of the federal government. He was breaking down the fake values that were used in studies. So what they were doing was saying, oh, it's 10%, it's 20%. But what they were doing is actually manipulating the expression by actually just comparing one value next to the other value instead of the totality of values. So that manipulation of data is so drastic and so much, it's shown everywhere, all over the data. Meaning, so we have a 30% efficacy. Wait, so 30% between these two values is not 30%, it's 3 or 2. So those manipulational tactics of expressions, manipulation by math, lying with statistics.
Yeah, I was just going to say the exact same thing. Yeah,
that book expresses that trick. And they go deep into like, this is how this trick works. Like, this is how you can tell somebody one thing, but only a scientist or somebody that can read the math can like, wait, what?
Lying with statistics is easy. 67% of people can tell you that.
Yeah, it's like when they give you, it's like when they give you a per capita murder rate as opposed to like the actual real numbers of something. It's like when they say the highest per capita, crime rate in the United States instead of giving you the actual whole data. If you compare Norway to the U.S. or Sweden, I think it's Sweden. Sweden's more violent than the United States.
But getting into that, like you look at like what they consider into a crime rate. Like look at the tons and tons of laws on top of a thing that you can just break, that are just simple, that people break every day and don't even realize it in some cases. But like they're going by like the amount of laws they're able to charge people with, and like in these statistics and numbers that they're gathering for this, because these are some of these false numbers we're talking about, they're including things that are crimes that that aren't like victim crimes. It was times that the cops had to be called out for something, and you know what I'm saying?
You're right, and the problem is, you look at people use data from long term, but laws change in between there, and things get added on. An example is in my state of Victoria, that in Australia, that domestic violence only ever used to be considered when a physical assault happened between spouses or partners. Recently, they added to that and changed the law around it, that yelling and screaming at each other became a part of domestic violence. So, of course, domestic violence jumped through the roof because you can't even have an argument with your partner anymore. You're breaking the law. But they're still applying that data to what it was when it was half of the crime. Yeah, so, of course, it looks like it's bigger now.
There's a great example that I've made with this is a lot of the data that comes out for the deaths that have to do with smoking. if you are a known smoker and were to get hit by a bus, did you know you're going to get tallied into that number?
No.
Oh, it's like COVID. Oh,
They're pre-COVIDing it.
Yeah, so it's like COVID, man.
But this is a true thing before. This is a true thing before COVID. Like I was trying to, I've been an advocate for vaping for a little while because I've seen it help get people off of the.
You shouldn't smoke, period. But if you're gonna smoke, vaping.
I've seen it get.
I'm a little bit surprised by like the bus. Does the bus have a Marlboro ad on it? Is that why the person stepped out towards it? Like,
right. Well, it has to do if you were a known smoker, and of course, they can figure out if you were a smoker when they're doing the autopsy, and if it was clear that you were a smoker, on your death, that death gets tallied into the death count of people that have died because of tobacco. Your life was shortened because of tobacco. You wouldn't have been walking in front of that bus if you didn't have to go buy cigarettes that day or some shit. Like that's just this is the way they do things with numbers. That's why when it comes to numbers, and I'll even say the numbers for things like the census of how many people are on the planet, like I feel like they do a really good job at fudging numbers. And there's some really cool videos coming out of Australia that I keep seeing all over my TikTok feed today of people helping create numbers for things like voting by just shoving bags and bags of ballots into the ballot box in the overnight hours. And it's just like, you don't think that other people can be paid to fudge numbers of all kinds of ways when it comes to so many different things?
God, our voting system is fudged beyond even needing to cheat.
Look at India. 600 million people vote in one day. 600 million people. Of course, that is not the majority. Right. That's close to half the population, pretty much, because the other half is children. A big portion of like 30% probably is children. So 600 million, give or take, are voting in India. 600 million, and in a single day, you get the results. There's 400 parties. Still, they get everything done. So you're telling me they can get it done, but the rest of the world has problems, and they can't do it in a single day. First of all, it should be a holiday in every country. Mm-hmm. Voting day should be a holiday, and I don't know why in the United States it's not a holiday. It's actually really, 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 really stupid.
We still have a preference-based voting system where someone can win the popular vote, but the person who came second, someone who comes second or third, they can preference the opposition, and then they can put their votes into them, and it bumps them above the person.
So you have a parliamentary system, correct?
Yeah, it's so dumb, so dumb.
What is the best system? That is such an interesting question.
No system at all.
No government.
Yes. Yes.
Piracy all the way.
Yep. You answered that correctly, man. No system is the best system.
While wishful thinking is always welcomed. What has looked like a decent method of understanding what the population wants and needs? What is it?
Everybody handling their own business.
But I think once systems help.
Once we left the hunter-gatherer tribe societies of 30 or 40 people, that's when it got out of hand. We're fine when we're working in smaller clusters. When those clusters came together, it just went bad.
See, the thing is, people think that if the government disappears tomorrow, that
anarchy,
all of the systems that are incorporated into the government that are designed to take care of people will simply disappear too.
They wouldn't, but the real opening.
That's all you needed to say.
But the problem is those systems actually operate the government. The government doesn't operate them.
The problem is then tyranny from criminals would start to flourish exponentially. That is very big.
What is going on right now?
There probably would.
That is happening.
Talking about right now.
To your benefit, that probably would happen for a short period of time, but it would balance out because they would get clapped really quickly.
They took away the ability for us to have guns. So yes and no.
Just in your state.
I don't know.
Just in your state.
Just in your state, man.
You're the closest thing to an Australian on this group because you've got no firearms. So
yeah.
Oh, you're a domestic Australian, Luis. You're a diet Australian. Okay.
Australia Light. You don't need firearms. If you look at the Irish Republican Army, they had little old ladies with big knitting needles stabbing British soldiers in the neck. You don't need a firearm.
and they had car bombs.
Well, I mean,
Wow.
yeah, I bring this up to my my other Australian buddy all the time as kind of a joke. I mean, the real deal is we all need to get us some emus because the Australian government proved that they can't handle that. So why don't you start an emu farm and just take over, bro? Like,
No, just frogs. Just get frogs. The
Frog-
Australian
yeah.
government
frogs
will
riding
frogs.
emus. There we go.
Yeah, but
Frogs.
see, getting
Frogs
back to
and
what we
cats. That's all
initially
we need.
started
Frogs,
with
cats,
this,
and buddies.
it's
No, frogs, cats, and buddies.
when if the government was to disappear tomorrow, I mean that people would say, "Oh, anarchy." But that's not. We need to get people moved past that stigmatic view of, lawlessness and
seek
that's
leadership.
all they're gonna. Yeah, no,
They do.
Would anarchy exist without the lizard people, though? That's what you really have to ask. If the lizard people are gone, would there really be anarchy?
I think
But we don't know who's who
Oh,
yet, dude.
oh,
We don't have the
oh,
glasses.
we know
Or
who
would
the
it be
lizard
like the
people are,
Simpsons where we're
Louise.
walking-
Yeah, that's not difficult to.
Okay. So if we found the glasses, and we can actually tell them apart, then we could definitely have a civilized counterpoint.
I haven't found.
You don't
I
need the
haven't-
glasses for some of them. The skin is falling off their face.
Yeah,
That's also old people. Come on.
exactly.
Well, I mean,
What are you
there's-
saying, man? Okay.
I think Bandit has dreams of there being a boomer remover anyway. So like,
I mean, they robbed us of the nuclear age and affordable housing.
That is
I
valid.
mean, the dirty fucking hippies, that generation, that are now the drawing Social Security, and I don't care how bad people look at me for that, is that they robbed us because they voted for everything they could, no matter the long-term negativity of it. They voted for everything that would lower their taxes and make it good for them, regardless of the generations to come.
But you have to also look at the perspective that they weren't as educated and they didn't have as much access to information as you did.
Lead poisoning is a motherfucker too, man.
They played the card of, oh, my parents were in the war. Oh my
God.
so hard.
and then all right, the one argument that I'll give that I will in a semi way give to him, and that's just because my grandmother was actually there for it, was when the government sent soldiers to college to shoot some of them because they were protesting against the war. Like, I mean, the government was showing its teeth then, and I think that's when some of their parents stepped up and started doing something instead of.
Well, the government here sent police to shoot people for protesting, so pretty much the same thing.
Oh yeah, they'll shoot you for protesting down there real quick too.
You can't escape that aspect of the government, man. No matter where you go in the world, they will shoot you for protesting.
But I'm saying though, I think that's where a lot of them have their fear and conformity at, because they were like, oh crap, they are going to come and kill us. But like I think that's when I really think that's when their parents, like their generation of parents, should have been
the quiet generation. That's the quiet generation.
The front fucking door. You need to slow down. We just fought wars for you and shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that.
And they survived the Great Depression.
They did.
Well,
they were the ones that survived the Great Depression, and I think they were the ones. They just basically kept their mouths shut and just went along with everything.
Gave up the gold.
The children,
FDR.
You had the children come along in the free love decades.
Well, that was an interesting time because that's when MK Ultra started to go on overdrive.
Oh, full fucking swing, man, with LSD.
And it not only in the United States. I don't know if you've heard, Drew, but we experimented on several people in several places. There was a town we dosed in France. We dosed a whole fucking town in France. I can't remember the city, but we dosed an entire town in France with LSD. That didn't go well at all.
And a legit thing to think about. I'm not kidding about this when I say lead poison generation. The paint, gasoline,
pencils,
the real lead in the pencils, the lead in the paint. They had lead in their silverware. They had lead in the gasoline. Everything.
There you go. Oh, you guys didn't know?
It's real. Yeah, it's completely
real. It's real. I'm not making shit up when I talk.
The town is the inhabitants of Point Saint Esprit. southeast of France in 1951.
Right around that same time frame. Oh no, it'd have been late. Not too.
This is when we were already
1951.
This is
It was
1951
70s
is
or
when we were developing nuclear reactors already.
They sprayed a town here in the U.S. with radioactive dust.
We did so much fucked up shit just in the United States.
They fed those kids radioactive oatmeal. And people want to St.
Louis, Missouri.
Syphilis.
They want to trust this government that has done
syphilis.
They gave it to them and didn't give them the chance of getting it the fun way.
No, so what they did? No, this is worse. No, it's way worse than you think. They gave them placebos instead of the treatments.
They could have just given them a hooker with syphilis. That would have been more fun, surely.
But
they didn't tell them they didn't tell them they had syphilis. They wanted to see the results.
Oh, you mean
that was dark? It was really dark shit.
And that's what makes you wonder why would you? People will look at this and go, "I trust the government. They're not doing bad things."
This documentary you mentioned this documentary, Jim, before, the documentary about what the crazy stuff that was happening in Australia with the Aborigines.
Oh
my God, dude! They were actually.
What's this documentary's name? I need to see it.
Hold on. Can I point something out real quick?
Go ahead while I'm looking it up.
Aborigines were still classified as flora and fauna until the late 60s, and you could shoot them like a wild animal.
Yeah.
This is in the United States or in Australia?
No, this is Australia. Yes. Yeah.
They're the only native people in like a Western colonized country that doesn't have a peace treaty.
Well, that's why you guys forced them to take vaccines that they didn't want.
They kind of forced everyone to take vaccines here that we didn't want.
There's a big one on YouTube that I have saved that I'll share with this one. It's actually only like the first part that I can share with you, and then the rest of them they'll follow after or whatever. But it's the first one's 2 hours long, and it's about the Aboriginal folks. I remember talking about this the other night. We shared it on another episode and stuff too. But when it came to doing things down there, man, they treated the Australian folk, especially the Aboriginal ones, with some heavy hands. And a lot of people also seem to forget that Australia, much like America, was started as like a prison colony too, from England and such, as far as like, hey, we're going to ship people down there and just forget about them.
Yeah, that was the biggest problem. Australia, we only had one free colony in Australia, and that became the state of South Australia. The rest of our states were prison colonies, and I think that kind of set the catalyst that the main majority of people here were either the military police or convicts, like brutal, hard people who were away
and they bored out of aggressive people
and violence. Yeah, and if you've been shipped off to the other side of the world and you're suddenly freed as a convict, and the only way you can survive is taking out someone who lives nearby, and you don't have the education or the social skills to make connections with Indigenous people, that's probably the situation that both of them were put in, that they were going to fight each other.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
We have a saying in Australia, it's called Buckley's chance. If you've got Buckley's chance of something happening, you've got no chance. And that's named after an Irish convict who escaped a penal colony. And he fled off into the bush, and he ended up marrying into an Aboriginal tribe and had kids with them. Later on, the governor of the colony captured him and wanted to use him to broker a peace treaty. And it ended up resulting in his entire tribe being massacred and wiped out. That's why we've got the saying of there's no chance of it happening. Buckley's chance.
Why today, the 21st century, is there no peace treaty between the Aborigines, like leaders and the representatives, and the Australian government? Why don't they have representation?
It's a bit of a contentious issue at the moment, where we're going through there's a national referendum coming up where it's a vote of whether Aboriginal people should be represented in the Constitution. And there's two schools of thought on it. Aboriginals are already Australians. They're the first Australians. They have a rich history of this country, and we're sharing the land with them. The other side of it is, if you're preferencing one race over the rest of Australians,
it's not race. God damn it, I hate those people that say that. No, but it's talking to you.
And that's the other school of thought, is whether you have one other race getting preferential representation in the Constitution, whether it's this equal opportunity amongst all Australians. So that's the current argument that's going on.
That is such a bullshit argument. Such a load of shit. The
I
counter argument is such
okay.
a load
Well,
of shit.
I think here's like a third wild card argument is why do the people of the Australian government that existed after these Aboriginals even get to have a say so if those people want to be involved or not? Why don't we ask them? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel they're making decisions based on their preference instead of the preference of the people.
Oh,
there.
they don't want to have politically motivated. Politically motivated. There's big issues. We have over 1,000 Aboriginal nations in our country. If you look up the Aboriginal nation map, you'll see the current continent of Australia broken up into just thousands of tribes.
What's the population size of that collective estimated populations?
It's gone up in recent years, which is considered to be people lying on government documents to get special access to funds, but it's a low percentage, like 3% of the population or less. Okay. And the problem is our nations of our First Nations people, they all spoke different languages. A lot of them were constantly fighting with one another, and there's no singular language. Like you look at our cousins across the ditch in New Zealand, Maori is one collective language. And in their education system, in their schools, every kid learns Maori. It's a very strong part of their culture. In Australia, it's a very hard thing to implement because you can have multiple clans or tribes within a state vying for, I want my language taught because my language is more important than yours. They've got the same idea where they're butting heads against each other for dominance still.
Do you know how many of those languages have written elements? Or
none. It's a completely oral language. So much is lost forever now. It's just been what's passed down through generations, and a lot of it's been lost to time now.
Are they trying to create frameworks so that they are preserved? Is there any initiatives by the government and assistance with the in working together to try to create ways to preserve?
There's a lot of initiatives that are trying, but rightfully so, a lot of these nations are very cautious about letting any of their knowledge being passed on to the white man. Within schools, within schools as an educator, I can't actively teach any Aboriginal history. It's illegal because I'm a white man. Yep. They hold it very closely. We have special designated government workers who are Indigenous people that come out to schools that you have to request. And a lot of the time, they're not really into coming out to schools. The only time they'll go to school.
The idea that it's illegal is atrocious. I understand if it's not preferred, but if you want to talk about,
I come from the position of, if I ask for permission, hey, I would contact one of the elders. I would really like to teach a unit about your artwork. Yeah. And how you've depicted animals. Is it okay if I go ahead and do that? And can you send me any resources? That's fine. But to not be able to do it is just ridiculous.
That's the absurd part. I understand if you would need to ask or that's because, okay, that's fine. But there's no pipeline.
Or have a government sanctioned, air quotes, resource pool that you can draw from that you're allowed to use. That'd be fine. But nothing exists.
That's in a way erasing the culture by this bizarro proxy.
Yes, and that's the extreme left, I would say. They're very much against white people not having access to it, and it's disrespectful.
So wait, the extreme left are the fascists. Oh, yes. So you're like the United States. Okay, so
exactly so. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Look, we're the same. It's the extreme far left.
I know
they're so far left, they're like going around and just hitting the fascist button. Like they're just going around and just going straight to fascism.
It's not a line, it's a circle and it spins.
I know I probably reference this too much, but I'm totally going to reference it again. It makes me think of another episode of Rick and Morty where Rick got lost and was trying to get back to his place, but he couldn't, and he kept ending up in all these different worlds, but all of them defaulted to fascism. Like every last one of them in the episode that he ended up, they were defaulting to fascism, and it's just like, what the fuck? Like, why do all these?
Because governments default to fascism. Okay, so governments default to totalitarianism.
That's been since the beginning of time, man.
It's just hilarious. Just like that. Makes a great point on how like it seems that all these people that very true here and very true where you are, that they think they're doing good by using the government to force people to do things, and I mean, that's
Slippery slopes.
It's them.
Yes.
They're justified by their own moral compass. My morals can be very different from yours, and if your moral compass justifies you wiping out an entire group of people for the greater good, they're justified in doing so because they think they've got the moral high ground. That's the problem with humanity. People can justify whatever they do based on their compass.
And we've seen lately, moral compasses have been really
Manipulated?
really screwed up and manipulated as of lately. And let me bring it back to the whole COVID ordeal. We really saw screwed up moral compasses with the whole COVID thing, and it was
my body by choice. Kind of broke apart.
If you don't get the vaccine, I hope you die.
Right.
A lot of people stupidly said that.
But lots of people, and some people who now, I don't want to name names because I'll be respectful in that aspect, even though he doesn't deserve it. But a very prominent person posted quite a few times on Twitter and his social media that said, "If you don't get the vaccine, I hope you die a really horrible death." And now
many people in the American
and
media.
Now he is dying of cancer.
That is karma.
And wants sympathy. I don't know. I don't have any more to give those types of people.
This makes me.
Let me finish one thing. Just one quick thing.
The Atlantic one.
What I always say about the COVID thing is they used that to draw a line in the sand to see who would follow government orders and restrictions to the letter and who would push back. That's what they used. They used that to draw a line in the sand to find out who chose sides,
Sure.
And I think that's very unique to the American situation because you've started off as a country based on fighting for freedoms and having a say about yourselves. You look at Australia, though, we were started as a penal colony, so we're really good at either following orders or giving them because we're the ancestors of cops and their jailers.
You went right back to a penal colony.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, wait until we have space penal colonies. That's going to be a whole thing.
Oh, jeez. Hey, those dumbasses over at NASA said we're going to have human beings living on the moon this decade. And everyone in the comments was like, guys, we can barely afford to live on Earth.
Yeah. Space is gay. Why don't we live on the bottom of the ocean like Sequest?
That's right. Oh, Sequest, bro.
Right? I can get with that.
So
for sure.
Well, that's also happening actually already.
Until we find Cthulhu and we're all fucked.
Let's declare. Oh my God, who did that image?
Oh no.
That was this was one of our unseen admins over there on Captain Conspiracy and the Freedom Pirates on Facebook. He's a good friend.
I was quoting this article.
He was a close friend of mine, and this is his handiwork. I think he did a good job, and he said he already had.
That's Shooter, right? That's Shooter McGavin.
Yeah, he lives up in North Georgia and comes down and hangs out with me when he comes out of the woods from making shine every now and then.
Okay, show the other one, the wood chipper one. I forgot. No, but that's related to an article from the Atlantic that was saying, "Hey, we made mistakes," but a lot of doctors very early on, and we're talking a month in from the vaccine, they were like, yeah, this shit's not working. This shit's having side effects. What's going on?
You're not getting amnesty.
I unfortunately live in a state that has a 95% vaccination rate, and it was mandated on everyone that had a job. And especially as a teacher, I was coerced into getting them. And I went to my doctor and I looked for every possible grey area loophole I could. And my doctor sat down with me and said, "I'm really sorry, but we don't make your health choices anymore. The government does."
My doctor here said, I don't make the health choices in relation to COVID. The government does. The government and corporations do. My doctor told me that a few days ago. When it comes to COVID, we don't make choices. I'm like, okay, I can make the choice to tell you to fuck off. So there's that. At least we still have the choice here. Because I saw this one Australian that fought like every way possible to get the paperwork, and the doctors were fired. They lost their medical licenses. Doctors in Canada lost their medical licenses. Doctors in England lost their medical licenses. Doctors in the United States, many lost their medical licenses because they went against the establishment, they went against the hospitals, and they lost everything. And that's the reason why in the United States, many doctors weren't saying anything, because the debt that they accrue from the medical school is so huge. That's why they can't say anything.
So
because they get fired.
You got to pay $500,000 medical degree. Like, you're going to have a job, aren't you?
So
they can't say no.
So when I all these years ago, when I was pointing out all these things that literally have happened all over again, we're talking about like the suppression of real science over their science, like when they figured out how to make pills based off of petroleum products and started erasing herbal medical science for profit, and then how they started experimenting on people, whether it be radioactive things, whether it be the spraying of people with LSD, or Lord knows what else they've done. And then you come around to things like how they've been outed about using the fear propaganda, like we've seen them use. You don't think people look over this, I think, and this is something that I've always pointed out for years, like there's that kind of propaganda hidden in so much of your entertainment industry, even, that you're being fed the propaganda and stuff just about every day of your life when it comes to a lot of these things, and it molds many people's trains of thought. Like it's a slow drip needle of a brainwash. Like I've been looked at crazy before in this, but even your simple cartoons like SpongeBob has some form of underlying brainwave that can influence your thought pattern, your train of thought.
Just the amount of pedophiles that worked on that show.
That's a great example of why. But
dark element.
But like, these are it. What I guess what I'm getting at is, these are all. I for one think COVID, the way that it happened, and drawing that line, appreciate it, because for so many years I was just the crazy guy in the pirate hat that everybody was like, "Who's this nut job standing on the side of the road with his cardboard sign?" Telling everybody that the world is ending, the end is near. But like now it's more and more people are seeing these things for reality. And I think it's a point to bring it up and show people that it's been happening for a long time and they've been outed for it before, but everybody just kind of move forward. We don't need to move forward this time. We need to actually do more than out them. Like, we need to completely out them, not just out them for what they've done, but out them from where they stand. And they're, I'm not calling
strip
for
them of all power. Every
you know what I'm saying? Like, there's,
bring back the stocks.
There's things, I have ideas like Mr. Chippy, don't get me wrong. And there's this other idea that me and Bandit have been tossing around about how I would like to have true cotton again. So we should make politicians go out and work the cotton fields. But that's a whole different subject for a whole different episode, of course. But like,
I'm in the position of, we really need to invest more into rocketry science. So let's launch the first rocket into the sun, and we can stack it with people who,
it's a testing ground. If they come back, well,
I love this.
Send them to Venus.
And at the same time, we can prove flat Earth true or false at the same time, because either they'll hit the sun and explode, or they'll hit the sun and explode.
Right? Find out if find out if we're actually the geocentric universe that's a simulation, or find out if we are something flying through space or some shit like that.
Ticks so many boxes.
Different ways to look at it.
One really funny thing there were a few people talking about was the speed of light could be the limits of how fast it all can be rendered.
Whoa, that's true.
Look at
if you go faster than the speed of light, you break the render speed. So
that's like missing 411, where someone who goes out by themselves into the wilderness, the simulation is trying to render so much of the environment around them that can't catch up, and the person disappears because that's the simulation correcting the fault.
Oh, stop that! Why did you have to break?
No, because it's already pre-rendered. pre-rendered.
But it's like playing.
Sasquatch explained that better than that. Like I would
Remember playing
more Sasquatch before I believe that the forest.
Remember playing GTA where you'd run and eventually like the scenes in front of you. Would
it hasn't rendered yet.
Yeah,
but
there
or
you
you
go.
there we
you
go.
get-
That's it.
or you get lag killed.
Oh my god, I remember getting lag killed in Modern
Dude,
Warfare
I got
2.
lag killed
Yes.
on Modern Warfare 2 just 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
Yep.
here's a mind fuck for you. Here's the latest little theory I've been coming up with. People always argue whether we're the playable characters and everyone else around us is an NPC. What if we're not either of those and the people who are awake to things are errors in the code and we can't get out no matter what?
Yeah, I can totally see that.
We're all Neos trying to break we're broken.
Actually, no,
and
no,
what it is
Wreck-It Ralph, the little girl in
We're
Wreck-It Ralph that
corrupted
was
data.
the error.
We're corrupted data.
Data. We are. We really are. Whether you look at it as we're living in a simulation or not,
This reference
we
is
are
a Disney
corrupted
movie.
data.
Actually. This believe it or not,
Like
this reference is a Disney movie, and I'm only familiar with it because of my kids. But like,
No, you're not. You watched it too.
The Wreck-It Ralph series, the little girl that is the main attraction in that, she's an error in the game's data and isn't even supposed to exist in the game. But they never corrected it. And like when they went to like fix the game, it was going to get rid of her. And that was the whole premise of the thing, was the other game trying to save her because he was real in his world, but she wasn't supposed to be there. And like the NPC actually saved her.
This gets darker, though. This gets a lot darker. The playable characters are the elites. And they notice that we're actually programs that have figured it out. And they're like, oh, but they've got no chance of getting out. Sucks to be them.
Well, did you see that the I forgot which organizations declared that, oh yeah, your cousin next door, she is
New
the
Zealand?
head of the misinformation board.
Oh, yeah.
Jacinda,
That's a bloke for sure. 100% bloke.
That psychotic bitch. I mean, a country that has been led into fires, burning fires, and everybody followed. I mean, I'm sure not everybody in New Zealand followed, but it is a sad case of a country that generally looked like it was well run, ran into the ground.
You forget, she's your one source of truth. Just remember
she
that.
Proclaimed that everything on social media is a lie and you will only get your truth from the government.
We are your single point of truth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And that she was running a campaign
because governments don't lie, guys. Come on, they need to help us.
No, they never.
No.
But
No,
she was building she was part of the idea that these conspiracy theories are dangerous to our systems.
The democracy.
Wait, if they're what part of them are dangerous?
The truth.
They're not true. It's like flat Earth. Like what's flat Earth doing? Flat Earth is not harming anybody.
Yeah, it's not hurting.
Flat Earth harming anybody.
Yeah,
they're only harming themselves. I mean, they're only harming
themselves. So what harm are we talking about here, fellas? I mean,
well, that's it's crazy to me. Like even the people that get real deep into like that QAnon. Like I've always, an ex-friend of the show used to be like, oh, they're so trashing conspiracy theorists, and I'm like, nah. I was like, no, once they come out that they're following a mysterious guy that's sending emails out to tell them that that's the truth, that's when they kind of start losing their credibility, because you didn't get chosen to be some special guy that's delivering the message because Q said you were. Like, go back to 4chan and continue having the conversation with whoever you were having.
Yeah, you're lucky you're on the email chain.
Right. Like
just look at 4chan's ability to create narratives. Remember this?
Yeah.
So this, if you
white power.
This is a white power.
Yeah, it's white power.
At the same time,
really,
you have to
really 666. That's what it is.
Oh yeah.
You have to admire 4chan's ability to be an internet sleuth. Okay,
yeah, they do a better job at it than a lot of the internet does. Yeah.
Do you know what 4chan's done really well though, and the internet in general? We've memed things into existence.
And that's why memes are
out of existence.
Meme is the most powerful place in the world.
It is. That would be. I say that. I think I say that so much that it's social media in general the internet in general has become the sharpest double-edged sword known for, forever. Like, they can use that to turn people, and we can use that to turn people. We can use it against them, and they can use it against us.
This is one of our other group projects that we do with our buddy from Australia, actually. Defeat the media, and that's all it is, man. It's memes. Memes are the most powerful tool in the world, dude.
Oh yeah, that was great.
Like,
I'm currently trying to make a meme at the moment with Fetterman and Biden as Master
That's a
Blaster from.
legiondary one.
That's a
Did
good
you
one.
not know it was
yes.
Baldwin?
I'm trying to make a meme at the moment.
Watertown.
The meme I'm generating at the moment has Biden and Fetterman as Master Blaster from Mad Max. Fetterman as a big super tard, and then Biden on the back as a little tiny, physically inept person who's going to barely speak and try and control him.
It's like,
how is that man elected? Look, I'll tell you this.
we know how he got elected.
Dr.
Together
Oz
they
was
make
a
one
terrible
rational person.
candidate.
Nah.
I could have been a better candidate literally sleeping half the time.
Well, if I was in his state, I'd vote for him too, because he'd break my bones and grind them up to make bread like a giant. So it's self-preservation. He's a troll. He lives under a bridge, for Christ's sakes.
memes are great. I love memes. We always sharing them in between things like that. Like, that's, to be real, that's where this started. Like, I've got, Bandit will back me up here. I've got a record probably out there for most Facebook accounts ever, and that's just because
we found everybody because of memes.
It's a personal thing.
This started because of memes. Jimmy and I found each other because of memes.
Yeah.
Everybody that is in the group right now found because of memes. Found because of the enjoyment to share the truth, but share the truth in a comical way. And
then one day I logged on to TikTok because everybody else didn't want to do it, and I figured I'd take the dive because you got to have a presence, I think, in all the different social medias since they're all relevant to someone else. And it kind of just started growing into this because I started being a co-host over on the Red Pill Project quite frequently, and then I was just like, man, let's do our own thing. And so we just evolved it. And the memes don't stop either, though. Like, the only time you don't see the memes is when we're banned, because we still stay on. I stay on ban regularly. I'm going like 2 or 3 days strong.
I am 2 steps from getting banned. So
because you're hanging out with us, that's why.
It turned into a personal thing because I don't know. After like the 10th or 12th account, I was like, well, this son of a bitch has to know who I am in real life, like for real, and I'm gonna make him say Jim Bob Oval Shorts in real life because I want to hear Mark Zuckerberg say it. So I just keep creating the accounts, coming back no matter how many times he gets rid of me, because I want him to publicly say my name because I think it would be hilarious. And that's just been a vendetta I've had, like, with him, I guess, personally, with sharing my memes and stuff. But we never stop there because I really do. I think
if I ever meet Mark Zuckerberg, I have to say your name.
That's fine. That's fine. But I mean, if I think the meme has done more for waking people up in general, not woke, but waking people up, like, because there's so much information in your little 6x5 inch screen or whatever of the, what I'm saying, that you're seeing of this little picture. And I've seen it change so many things, and I think it still keeps doing its job every day. I mean, hell, we made Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself so damn popular on the internet with memes that they locked everybody down for COVID, and now here we are today. So it's.
But Cuba, would you rather have memes, or would you rather fly in on a rope through Zuckerberg's window with a cutlass?
I mean, now if I can go, if I can go full pirate through the windows, like, we might have some discussion there, because I think
that's why Facebook's headquarters has giant walls around it.
Oh wait, they have a wall around them?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
A huge wall.
Interesting.
A huge, wonderful, gigantic wall.
We've done.
You didn't know? Facebook's main server's headquarters is literally a fortress.
Well, no. Now I would say, as far as that,
well, Skynet's got to protect itself, right?
Well, yeah, no, they basically
don't give them credit. They're not close to Skynet. Google might be, though.
When you go in there to do the HVAC work on their towers and stuff at their Atlanta place, they basically black bag you and then don't wake you up until you get inside, and then like they follow you like a hawk, and you can't even pull your phone out for anything.
Do they legit block you from seeing where the fuck you're going until you
Yeah,
get to
bro.
the
They don't want you to know where it is.
And then they make you suck something through a hose.
Pretty much, like, and you know, it's probably Zuck's fucking Sweet Baby Ray's that he's got in a hose over there. But like, the security at this place is more ridiculous than anything I've ever seen in my entire life. I'm glad that I don't have to deal with that ever again, because fuck doing HVAC work. It's a pain in the dick.
Oh, you did work at a Facebook server?
They were a customer, and we had to service the AC units there, and basically a whole floor is the AC duct, because those things get so hot, and it's harder
Facebook
secure
has servers underwater.
It's hard,
Like-
yeah,
like-
submerged, yeah. It's harder security than if I could probably show up to the White House and sit in the Oval Office's desk easier than I could get through a Facebook.
Of course, Biden's not going to remember who you are, so you just say, "Oh, I'm friends with your cousin." Oh, okay, yeah, come sit down.
Just
Oh,
say,
you have
"Where's
to do
mom?
is say the
Where's
right
mom?"
story.
Listen,
and then Kamala Harris is going to come in laughing her head off. It's like, "Who are you?"
like a hyena. I mean, no, and you know, it's funny though. I guess nobody ever truly remembers the vice presidents. Like when you go back, there's some that
We'll
stand
remember
out.
her.
But you're gonna
We'll
remember her.
Cackling
Because you're
Girl.
gonna remember that laughing hyena face every time. It makes me think of the one that Whoopi Goldberg played in The Lion King. Every time she gets to bust out
Yeah.
laughing. That's exactly what
I've got to laugh at the moment. Like, you're getting a lot of people voted in based on like feelings and, oh, that poor hard done by person, not the merit of their character or the things that they stand for policy wise. You've got a African American vice president, so I don't think you're going
She's not
to have a
African
female.
American either. She
Oh.
is like Caribbean, Indian, Jamaican. Like she's Indian.
Yeah.
Well,
She's not.
She just lied about it.
more melanated than I am. She's a person of color, right? She's a person of color who's the vice president. So you're going to completely circumvent a female president in the future, and you're going to circumvent a person of color. So you have to up the ante. Your next president is going to be a trans disabled person of color in a wheelchair.
No, they're gonna be Latino.
Latinx, get it right.
After DeSantis.
Oh, I
Come
have
on,
a
let me
meme.
run for president.
I have a meme.
I'll get a tan. I'll be colored enough.
I have a meme. I've got to get
I
it
can
sent
run
over
after
here.
DeSantis.
It's actually funny that you brought that up, because I seen this sent.
If I get enough sun,
Actually,
I am
you know
a man
what?
of color.
You know,
Turn to a lobster.
I think this is even
No, I
better
took
than
that
from who I seen this from. Now that you brought that up, bud. Of course, I love finding the memes and sharing them with other people, and this was actually one that you posted that kind of goes right along with what you're saying here, and it made me laugh. It was actually gonna make its way over, because yeah, dude, like this is the crazy shit that's getting spewed out now because people are doing ridiculous ass
Oh,
shit.
remember Ariana
I
Grande?
constantly go to my bank and I say I'm trans wealthy, and they still don't put more money in my account. It's really triggering that they don't put extra zeros on it.
Good God.
No, so there was a case of a person that needed to get a mastectomy. They couldn't get an appointment. But then they said, "Oh, I just want to get a gender transition," and they got the appointment.
Oh my
I'm not
God.
kidding. This actually happened in the
Oh
United
my
States.
It doesn't surprise me.
So people are just suggesting to them, if you need to get a mastectomy, just say you want to transition gender, and they'll just approve you.
Wow. This, you know,
We live in the literal clown world at this point, don't
we
we?
live in the
So
literal
it's
clown world.
$7 million per transitioned person. That's the profit motive for the pharmaceutical industry to be transitioning so many children. 70% of these kids are also autistic. So you are also playing with people that have social issues. And then you're forcing the idea that transitioning gender is a solution to their social issues. Of
And I
course
can't help but notice that these like kids with Asperger's and autism, that It's when they're in their, say, 8, 9 years old and they start watching things like anime and they're on the internet a lot. That's when they decide they might be gender fluid or gender diverse.
And there's nothing wrong with the conception of fluidity. It's what's wrong is forcing them the idea that they should not be comfortable with their own bodies, because the consequences of these actions is so drastic. They will never reproduce. They will have lifelong complications with their health. They will never enjoy sex, especially
They'll have
male transition into female. You
they'll
know, you
have
have to dilate
osteoporosis.
that thing every single day for the rest of your life.
Gross.
Yikes.
It's the woo.
And the early use of hormone blockers ends up giving you osteoporosis long term. So
yeah, that's why they're blocking it. And Sweden was the first country that started it, and now Sweden blocking it. Sweden realized, oh, we're fucked up, but at least they're stopping. But why doesn't the rest of the world following Sweden?
It's not we're just fucked up. Oh, we're fucking up our next generation. Yeah, we better stop that.
No, but in the US, like, oh, we're just making autistic kids not reproduce. It's okay. Because it's eugenics.
Yeah. Well,
eugenics.
is it eugenics, or is it how nefarious does it go down that transhumanist route? Is everyone going to be like those pasty grey-skinned goobacks from South Park in the future, where we're genderless, we're raceless, and we're just drones that serve a purpose?
That's what they want, though. That's what they want, though.
I mean, yeah, because then you can start hacking and bio and more. I don't know. The eugenics thing's always been pretty fascinating, and it's interesting to see how many people throughout history were doing stuff like that, including people like Bill Gates' father and stuff. Like that's just an example of people that were into eugenics when you go through that.
So the elites love eugenics on everyone else, but they don't practice it on themselves. They're so inbred that they get like the Hasberg jaw and fucked up spina bifida and shit. So yeah, they've got a weird idea about eugenics.
Well, that's why one of the royals in the royal family looks so good while the rest looks like shit.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, if it's good enough for the royals, it's good enough for me.
Yeah, and can you believe it? He became a redhead. That's the irony. The ginger one's the good-looking one with the good genes. What did he do? He married outside of our whiteness. Curse the man.
Married outside the family.
Ginger power. He's not a real royal anyway.
Well, you can laugh, but that's the truth, though, Luis. Yeah, married outside the family.
Well, she's actually like a distant cousin anyway. Even if they're outside the family, they're not outside the family.
If you go far enough back, you are related to everyone on Earth.
Yes, but this is really close still, considering.
Really, yes, really
like
close.
All the American presidents have some kind of lineage to the royal family. Like.
Yes, again, that's the thing. Is that
all but Van Buren.
If you go far enough back, you'll find that lineage and many people. But I know it doesn't apply to everybody.
That's but it goes to a point to where, like with the U.S. presidents, it all doesn't go back thousands of years, man. Yeah. It goes back recent.
It's recent history, yeah.
Well, and not just that, but
except two presidents that weren't related to them.
One.
Trump was related.
One.
They're all
cousins.
He's still a piece of shit.
Trump is related to Obama. Obama's related to Bush. People have to realize Bush and Obama are related.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. Well, I mean, we're talking about these inbreds and stuff, and I've always found it funny that you can mention some of the people lost deep in the woods of Appalachia that they've really found that are super inbred, and that's totally where those royals are headed if they keep doing their first cousins and their sister.
Well, they're already eating people, so it's like the hills have eyes, but with more money.
Correct.
At this point, because this is the thing: human trafficking is $151 billion industry before COVID. Now it's probably a $200 billion industry. So, where are all these people going? That serious question. Where are they all going?
Probably blended up in a big smoothie somewhere.
Where do you think the government gets their people that they conduct experiments on? I mean, you just don't hire them off the street.
That's why you never put yourself on an organ donor list, because if some rich fucker needs your kidney, he's coming to get it.
That's right.
Yep.
Well, before I did find that slightly paranoid, as I have seen more with time how broken the system is, the more I've realized that, it's best to remove that crap from your ID. If you're dying in the hospital, you can change your mind. By the way,
No, yeah, you can do that.
you can just change your mind in the
Drop of a
hospital.
dime. Yeah, exactly.
In the hospital, when you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna die. Okay, donate whatever you can use.
Yeah.
That's different, you know. Oh, by the way, in Canada, in a few months, I think it's like 3 months, less than 3 months from now, less than 4 months from now, they're gonna allow people that are depressed to commit suicide by the state.
Well, I think that's already been in effect in some provinces in Canada for a while now.
Yeah,
No, but
that's
now it's
already
gonna be
coming in.
all nationwide in Canada.
Yeah.
That if you're
And-
depressed, you can get suicide via the state.
It applies to kids without consent from parents too.
Whoa.
Jesus Christ.
Welcome to this beautiful future. The death panels are coming. Bill Gates just said it in the
Oh,
World Economic Forum.
Canada.
Well, don't they
Gates just
have
talked
like
about
the suicide pods in Sweden?
It's like fucking
Well,
Futurama, isn't it?
Okay, so I think it's in Switzerland. And the thing is, you still need to do a lot of paperwork, and you need to go through psych evaluation. The governments over there, they don't just let you die. It's usually you're going through something like you have something that's literally killing you inside, or like pain or something like that.
Terminal pain, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
Or
there's a
terminal
reason
illness.
for it. You cannot just go over there and get assisted suicide from the state.
It's not a 25-cent coin.
Oregon
Top of a
has it
pot deal.
legalized. but I am,
Yeah,
I am
That's Canada,
for,
though.
I am for
That is
like,
Canada.
legal suicide should exist. Yeah, I am for
Mhm.
that, but it should have very high threshold,
Yes, very high
it.
standards.
very high standards. That's it. But yes, there should be options for people to calmly leave this
Whereas here in America, if they catch you failing it, they're just going to lock you in a cage because they think that's the best thing to do for it.
There's a lot of people that want to leave, but they don't want to leave by their hands.
Yeah.
And look, honestly, if that's your choice, that's your choice. It's not the best
Sure.
choice.
No,
I've
I don't know, when you get into like some, and I'm not advocating for it or anything like that, but when you get into like some weird aspects of spirituality and stuff, it even tells you
they just don't want to kill themselves. They want to
Mhm.
die.
They're-
They
That's
believe
the whole
they're,
point.
they're
suicide
they talk
will
about how
not
they're-
allow them into the afterlife of whatever.
It's actually
But
not even where I was
assisted
going.
suicide is what
Yeah.
it
Well,
is.
here we go. Can I jump in here, Jim Bob?
Yeah.
That committing suicide is only a recent addition to the Abrahamic religion doctrine.
Yes.
That
Yes,
there was
this
a
is where I was
group called the Thuggee that would operate in between India, Pakistan, and the Middle East, where they would actively go out and antagonize people to the point where they would kill them, so that they could circumvent the whole idea of I haven't committed suicide, someone else killed me. And they had to do that because prior to it, people were killing themselves in droves because they were going into the afterlife where everything would be fantastic and God would be there to love you. And
Well,
the church had to go, well, we're losing a lot of people here. Better slow it down.
That's an
okay,
interesting.
that's-
Could you
but
send
that's-
me more information on that? I'd like to read more.
Yeah, I'll
about
find it. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
where
that'd
that's
be
where I
really
was going. Is me and my wife were talking
That's
about
where the
this
word
other
thug
night,
came from.
is that there was a point in time where people had realized with the idea of reincarnation that, oh, okay, this life sucks and I'm not doing a good job. I can just restart in a new one somewhere else, and that was happening in like those droves and stuff like that. And that's when the church started stepping in because there was a bad time in history. Like there's some interesting aspects into that, and I'm not like advocating for it or whatever, but it was like I don't know, I could see it. I was like, okay, so you got
Yeah.
dealt a bad card and you just wanted to try again. Like,
Remember that lady that came on here and spoke about her experience in her 40s, where she potentially had an experience with what she spoke of as an angel, and that being told her that suicide's okay.
Yeah.
And we found that all very interesting. That
Mhm.
they told her suicide's okay, but don't do it.
yeah.
Wait 20 years, and we'll talk again. And if you want to go then, you go then.
It's
Imagine
it's
just the
interesting.
idea of being a peasant in the field pulling up like radishes and stuff, and you're like, man, my life's really shit. I'll go top myself and I might come back as a prince and then everything will be fine.
I know that's wild, but like,
I mean, also
crazy.
picking radishes. What's wrong with picking radishes?
I would totally take
on,
picking
man.
radishes over working in the tar mines or something for somebody.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's what-
true.
or a coal mine in the
Or the- yeah.
1800s.
Or the
In the US.
cobalt mines of Africa today. God.
Right,
Or
or the chocolate fields for Hershey.
Oh,
Oh yeah, I'll go there. But like, I mean, these are we
Nestle.
definitely
Just
live in some
Nestle.
interesting times, and I really think that these conversations that we have up here not only bring some light to some of these interesting topics, but also help shoot ideas around, and maybe maybe we can find ways to move forward away from the terribly broken system that we are currently stuck in. Because I don't want my kids to have to live in a world where they're having to worry about being genetically altered and not continuing humanity and such. Like I guess in the aspect of, if you wanted to call it conservative views or whatever, I really think that a big point in our life to be here is to help continue life going, and you can't continue life going if you don't have offspring. Now, don't have a bunch with a bunch of wild people that you don't know and you're creating problems, yada yada yada. Find the right people, but like, there's to keep humanity going, we got to kind of keep reproducing, and the only way we're going to successfully do that is not cut everybody's junk off. So really rethink about that before you go alter.
I know a couple who don't want kids because the way they see the world is, and one of the arguments they said to me was, well, what if we make the next Hitler? I'm like, well, you wouldn't raise the next Hitler. And I said, what's the possibility that the child you didn't have is the next Albert Einstein or the person that creates a cure for cancer? Like, you're robbing the world of opportunities there at the same time.
I mean, also the cure for cancer already exists.
I mean, yeah, they've just suppressed it.
Might be the person who lifts the trademark off it.
That's right. There he is. There it is. But I mean,
No,
these
it's
are
happening right now. I don't know if you've heard about this pseudoscience machine a while back that with frequencies could kill cancer.
Orgone.
The American FDA turned it off, like disabled it and destroyed all of the machines. So there's now modern studies showing frequencies killing cancer.
Yeah, it's the orgone device by Wilhelm Reich.
Yeah, and way back, me and Bandit.
Now there's modern versions of it happening.
Yeah,
so I'm like,
yeah,
wait,
course,
so maybe they weren't wrong. And
me and Bandit actually had a lady on one afternoon that she has made her own frequency device that she sells off her website. You can find over there at unconstitutionalawakening.com on the episode. And she made her own frequency device that has been helping. It's helped her and helped a bunch of other people. Those things are definitely real. This goes all the way back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the show, being beings of frequency hanging outside of a meat mech. And there's definitely some truth to that. I for one have had an absolute pleasure hanging out with you today, Drew. And before we get ready to close out, I always like to go around and ask folks if they got any last thoughts or anything good to send people off with for the night. I'd like to start with you, of course, first.
Well, thanks for inviting me on, guys. It was an absolute pleasure being on and meeting you all. I'm Drew Misson from Your Missing the Point podcast. You can find me on the usual podcatchers. I'm also one of the 3 hosts for the new show Conspiracy Theatre 3000, which I've started with Andy Rouse and Moral Bob, where we look at cinema, films, and deep dive looking for hidden symbolism. And that's coming out very soon. And yeah, absolutely love this discussion, guys. It was great to bounce ideas off what's happening in the Northern Hemisphere and what's happening in Australia and compare apples and oranges.
I've had an absolute blast with you, and I do look forward to having you back again. You guys know I'll have all those links to get back to him for all that good stuff so that you guys can find him and share your love over there with him as well. Luis, what you got for me, buddy?
Just learn to question, because we are taught as children to follow orders and follow the rules, and look where it's gotten us. It's gotten us to such a great place where if we don't question, we die. So start questioning before we die.
That's right. Bandit, what you got for me, buddy? You're muted.
Shit, man. Sorry. It's good. I got nothing, man. I'm just glad to be back.
Nice. Yeah, we missed you the past couple of days, buddy. I'm glad you're feeling better. So it's good to have you back. And Drew, again, it was great having you, of course. And we'll definitely have you back on again. We look forward to hearing some more from your new show that you got coming out. I do. I'll make sure we get all some love on that too. So you guys know before I get out of here, I've got something good for you. So how do geriatric pirates get around?
How?
Davy Jones Walker. You guys have a fantastic evening.